Welcome to Elizabeth's Chronicles. If you love true crime, consider subscribing. Jeremy Bamber was born Jeremy Paul Marsham on January 13, 1961. He was born at St Mary Abbots Hospital, in Kensington, London. He was born to Juliet Dorothy Wheeler. The child was the consequence of an affair with British Army Sergeant Major Leslie Bryan Marsham, who was a controller at Buckingham Palace. Wheeler put her baby boy up for adoption, to give him a better life, through the Church of England Children's Society. The child was adopted by Neville and June Bamber, when he was only 6 months old. The Bambers were wealthy. They lived on their farm in a large white farmhouse in Essex. Neville was also a local magistrate, and a retired pilot. 4 years before adopting Jeremy, the couple adopted a baby girl, Sheila. Bamber went to St Nicholas Primary School, then Malden Court, which was a private prep school. In late 1970, he was then transferred to Gresham's School, a boarding school in Holt, Norfolk. A close friend, Brett Collins, claims Bamber was sexually assaulted when he was 11 years old, which was around the same time he started Gresham's School. Collins claims that Bamber would go on to have relations with both men and women. Sheila had worked some as a model, and her nickname was Bambi. She gave up her modeling career when she found out she was expecting in 1979. She was married to Colin Caffell for a few years, but that ended in divorce in 1982. Caffell stayed involved in his sons' lives though. She had recently been treated for depression and schizophrenia. Once Bamber left school, Neville paid for him to go to Australia and New Zealand. He took scuba diving lessons. He ended up fleeing New Zealand in a hurry, when some of his friends were implicated in armed robbery. Bamber bragged about smuggling drugs, and robbing a jewelry shop to steal watches. He gave his girlfriend one of the watches he claimed to have stolen. When Bamber returned to the UK, he took on work at bars and restaurants. His father convinced him to return, and work at the farm, where his father supplied him with a car and a cottage, at no cost to him. His cottage was 3.5 miles away from the family farm. On August 7, 1985, Jeremy spent the evening at the farm with his family. He had taken a .22 rifle outside to shoot at some rabbits, but missed. He said he brought the gun back in, and propped it against a wall inside. Sheila just happened to be home this weekend visiting with her sons. At 3:30 a.m. on August 7, 1985, police receive a call from Jeremy Bamber, claiming that Neville, his father, had called him saying that his sister, Sheila, had gone berserk with Neville's rifle. When police made entry into the farmhouse, they found Neville in the kitchen, where it's evident a life and death struggle took place. Neville was shot 8 times, and the area showed signs of a vicious fight. They found his sister, Sheila, dead on the floor of her parents' bedroom with a rifle up against her throat. His mother, June, was found in the same room, shot 7 times, twice in the head. Sheila's 2 6-year-old sons, Nicholas and Daniel, were both found dead in their upstairs bedroom. Both boys had multiple gunshots to the back of their heads. The family members were all shot multiple times, with a total of 25 shots, at close range. Since Sheila had recently spent some time in a psychiatric hospital for schizophrenia, the police believed she was responsible for the horrific crimes. Jeremy began spending the family fortune after the killings. He was going on vacations, expensive meals and drinks for him and his girlfriend, Julie Mugford. Some of the family became suspicious of Jeremy, and they did not believe Sheila was capable of the shootings. During the cleanup of the farm, David Boutfloud picked up some ammunition that was lying around. When he went to put it back in the cupboard, where he found hidden away a silencer. It was sticky as though it had been halfway cleaned. and it appeared to have small specks of blood, red paint scrapes, and a single hair. The blood evidence was inconclusive of who it belonged to. However, there were fresh paint on the silencer as well, and that paint came from the red shelf, where Neville was killed and a violent struggle ensued. Jeremy had claimed that his father called him during the murders for help. However, according to Dr. Van Aziz, Neville had a fractured jaw, a broken nose, and severe damage to his larynx from the intense fight for his life. He states that his injuries to his larynx alone would have prevented him from being able to speak. Investigators determined that the gun, with the silencer on it, was too long for Sheila to shoot herself. And Sheila was shot twice, which ruled out suicide. At the funeral, Jeremy Bamber's behavior was strange. When reporters were taking pictures, he would appear sad, but as soon as the cameras were not on him, he was making crude jokes. Immediately after the funeral, he was selling off anything of any value from the farm, and even attempted to sell off a nude picture of his sister Sheila to a tabloid newspaper for £20,000. He even had the beloved family dog put down. A month after the funeral, Jeremy's girlfriend told authorities that he did the crimes. She stated that he spoke of wanting to kill his family before, and then on the evening of the murders he had told her tonight's the night. Jeremy Bamber was arrested on September 29. He was convicted of all 5 murders. Trial was held at Chelmsford Crown Court in 1986. He was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. Bamber appealed in 2011, but a panel of judges ruled his conviction to be safe. He is currently 60 years old, and behind bars at Her Majesty's Prison in Yorkshire. He will remain there for the rest of his life. The Hart family lived in Cambridgeshire, in a big farmhouse. When the couple first purchased the home, it was so damaged that it had to be torn down, and completely rebuilt. The family lived temporarily in camper, in their driveway, while construction was underway. The Harts had 3 children: Ryan, Luke and Charlotte. The children enjoyed their time outside. They loved playing with their dogs, chickens, sheep, pigs and geese. Their mother, Claire, grew the family's food in their garden. The family lived off of the land. In 2001, the family moved to the village of Moulton. The children were told it was due to Luke's school, but in reality Lance, their father, was not getting along with anyone, and he lost his job. Lance had a tough time keeping a job in Moulton as well. He eventually was able to land a job with a local merchant builder. Claire took on a position at Morrison's supermarket, behind the meat counter. Ryan Hart recalls, "We were one of those families where you'd have to either lights off, or wear more clothes because you can't put the heating on." Ryan and Luke describe their mother and sister as selfless and caring. They both adored animals, and were obsessed with dogs. Charlotte, their sister, volunteered working with the elderly. They described her as adventurous and loved sports. Claire is a cancer survivor. And when her children were in their tweens, she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. All 3 children excelled in school. Charlotte had been attending Northampton University, where she was studying to be a midwife. She was extremely smart, but recently had a bout of depression. She was taking some time off from school, until she could feel better. Lance did not show much interest in his children. He never attempted to go to any school events, or sports the children played in. And later Ryan and Luke state they preferred it that way. Lance spent his free time on his laptop gambling, or chatting with friends about conspiracy theories, in chat rooms online. He was forceful in his political views on his family. Luke said that their father liked his online friends better than his own family, and he would spend 12 hours a day online. After the move to Moulton, it became evident that their father was controlling all the money. He took Claire's wages, and would ration very little back to her. He would not allow anyone access to the bank account. With very little money coming in, it was thought that he was looking after the family's best interest. However, Lance was going to Niagara Falls, purchasing exercise equipment, and gambling it away. As time passed, Lance's behavior became more revealing to the children. He prevented Claire from access to a cell phone, or any social media. After the two sons, Luke and Ryan, had went off to college, they would have to ask permission from their father if they could speak to their mother. Luke recalls when they were home, their father would get drunk, then yell at Claire all night long, preventing her from getting any rest. This would trigger her multiple sclerosis. If Claire bought even a cup of coffee, he would go on about it for weeks. If she wanted to go spend time with female friends from work, he would accuse her of being gay. He expected everyone in the home to take on his emotions. If he was sad, everyone needed to be sad. If he was happy, he forced everyone else to laugh and be happy. And on the opposite end of that, if you were happy or sad, he was jealous of your emotions. Luke recalled when his mother told all the children about her having cancer, and their father became upset at dinner. He went on and on about how the children didn't know what it was like for him to have a wife who had cancer. Although Lance never became physically abusive, it could have turned that way, but it appears the family learned early on to walk on eggshells around him. The family worked hard to elude a calm atmosphere around him, and give in to his rantings. It never dawned on them that his behavior was considered domestic violence, because he never actually hit anyone. The children and Claire discussed leaving many times, but money was scarce. And Lance controlled the finances. So they decided to save up over time, years, a little here and there, until they had enough money to leave. They decided to adapt to him, go along with his emotional outbursts and cater to anything he throws at them. Their waiting lasted 15 years. After Ryan graduated from the university, things started to come together for Claire and Charlotte to leave. Finally in June, Claire told Lance she was leaving him. However, he attempted to fix things. Ryan remembers it was creepy seeing him try to smile and act nice. It was all fake and you could tell it was fake. His nice behavior lasted 2 days, then he was back to his old ways. Claire did not fall for his antics, so he became worse, and threatened to burn the house down. He said he would lie about their son's student loans, to get them all thrown in jail. On July 13, Lance and Luke drove to Spalding, to help their mother move out. They stayed the night at a local hotel. Then early the next morning, they drove to the family home, calling their mother on the way as they had planned, but there was no answer. That morning Lance had driven her to work, even though she objected. This threw a wrench into their plans. They had to drive to work, and pick her up, so they could pack and leave before he got off work that day. They quickly packed the van in the heat of the day. They knew their father could show up at any time. When finished, they drove their mother to her rented house, and helped her unpack. Luke recalls everything felt uncomfortably different, but I later recognized that the feeling was simply freedom. It was something I'd never known or felt before. We felt reborn. On July 19, 2016, only 5 days after they helped their mother move into her new home, Claire and Charlotte had decided to go to the swimming pool to start their day off. At around 9 a.m. they were just leaving the pool, and when they arrived at their blue Toyota Aygo, a man crawled out from under it. Immediately they recognized him as Claire's husband, Charlotte's father. He raised a shotgun, and shot Claire 3 times. He then reloaded and shot his daughter, then turned the gun, and shot himself. A local manager of a sports store, Alex Merchant, ran toward the gunfire thinking it was just a car backfiring. Across the parking lot, he could see people lying on the ground. He ran over to Charlotte, and in her final moments she told him, "It was my dad who shot me." In the family home, a USB stick was located, with a 12-page suicide note inside. He blamed Claire for not giving him a chance. 3 weeks prior to the murders, Lance's computer search history showed he was researching men who murder their wives. He also searched the key term, "How many men kill their wives?" All 3 died at the scene. With Jeremy Bamber, he wanted his family's inheritance all to himself. His sister would get half, so he waited until she was home visiting and killed them all, including her 2 young sons. He was greedy and heartless. He's locked away, which is where he needs to be for the rest of his life. With Lance Hart, he was a controlling, abusive man who was nothing short of a tyrant. He demanded his family mold to his selfish emotional needs, yet he neglected theirs. When his wife finally thought happiness was within sight, he smashed that hope, by killing her and their daughter. Luckily their sons were out of the country at the time, or they would have shared the same fate. The only good thing that came of this tragedy, is that he can never hurt anyone again. That concludes this episode. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing. Keep your eye out for episode 10 as well as other true crime videos, coming soon. Thanks for watching.